1, 2, 3.
While our weekly shows are edited to time for broadcast on public TV and community radio, we offer to our members and podcast subscribers the full uncut conversation. The following is from our episode featuring Newark, New Jersey Mayor and gubernatorial candidate Ras Baraka. These audio exclusives are made possible thanks to our member supporters.
I knew today's guest was no ordinary politician when I saw him perform a soaring poetic tribute to the incomparable poet Sonia Sanchez at the Schomburg Center in New York City on the occasion of her 90th birthday. At the time, he was not only mayor of New Jersey's largest, busiest, and most challenging city, but he was also running for governor, and we were all in the immediate run-up to one of the nation's most consequential presidential elections. Clearly, Ras Baraka was not only a good poet and time manager, but also a stand-up guy, rooted in the cultural legacy of the Black Arts Movement and his parents, poets Amiri and Alina Baraka, as well as in the principles that drive Sanchez and his own history as a public school teacher, namely a commitment to genuine, radical change. Some in our audience may have first heard of Baraka only after his arrest at a federal immigration detention center this May. They've heard his outspoken opposition to the Republicans' immigration agenda, an assertion of executive power, perhaps. But if that's the case, they may not know that as mayor of Newark, Ras Baraka has supported many of the sorts of programs we cover pretty regularly on this program, from universal basic incomes to publicly informed policing and community broadband. And he has seen success driving down crime and homelessness and inspiring other city leaders. He is currently one of the leading candidates in a crowded field of Democrats competing in New Jersey's gubernatorial primary. If elected, he would be the first black governor in New Jersey. If not elected, well, he is still an extraordinary politician, one to watch as he insists on advancing forward-thinking policies, even in these tough times. It is my great pleasure to welcome the mayor of the city of Newark, Ras Baraka, to Laura Flanders and Friends. I guess let's start with where some people are with the story, which is with that confrontation at that Delaney Hall facility there in Newark. What's the status of the facility? Who's in there? What condition are they in? And what was your concern about the place?
Yeah, I mean, it's a private prison. The government has a contract to house some of their detainees in there, so they don't own the property. They don't have a lease on the property. We really wanted them to just allow our inspectors to inspect the property as we do everything, and to apply for a certificate of occupancy. They don't have one. They're arguing they had one 20 years ago. Well, it's not sufficient based on our local law. And so we were in court, and the courts decide disputes. That's what happens in America, supposedly. But they decided to put detainees in the property, or people in the property, whether they're detainees or workers or anybody who shouldn't be in the property, without a certificate of occupancy. So we took umbrage with that, and we were in court. And, we went up there to make them do what they're supposed to do. Our congresspeople decided to go there. I came there for a press event, and it escalated and turned into them arresting me. Thank God that those charges have been dismissed, but we still have charges on the Congresswoman LaMonica MacGyver that we're also trying to get dismissed right now as we speak.
So how do you see your arrest? The charges were dropped, you underscore that, but also the indictment of Representative MacGyver, one of your mentees, as I understand it, within this kind of broader context of what's happening in this country?
Yeah, well, we're moving very fast towards authoritarianism if we haven't arrived there already. I mean, you're talking about people who are arresting mayors, judges, congresspeople, anybody who they think is going to defy them, who thinks differently than them, deporting people with green cards and visas simply because they have different ideologies than they do, running up on people on the street who are, in fact, citizens, who are violating people's due process here in this country. These folks are who passed congressional legislation in the House with a caveat that says that they don't have to listen to federal courts, or they stop federal courts from putting injunctions on their ability to do the things that they're doing, those executive orders or whatever else they think that they should do that's outside of Constitution of this country. And I think this is dangerous. It's very, very, very dangerous. And we should be very concerned about this, in this country.
Do you think you were targeted personally? Because the video sure looks that way.
Absolutely. I think I was targeted. I mean, I was in the facility for over an hour and a half, just standing there, and they came and targeted me. They targeted me because I'm the mayor of the city. They targeted me because I'm up there trying to hold GEO accountable to city laws, to state
GEO,
laws.
the for-profit company that
Yeah,
runs the place, they got the contract.
that's right. And they don't want us to do that. So yeah, they targeted me. They came after me, and then when I left the facility, they continued to come after me and have me arrested anyway.
What does this, well, I guess one question I have is, have you been in touch with other city mayors in a similar position? Because it does seem like cities in some ways are providing some fight back against the federal government in these times. And there's real questions over who has authority over what in cities like yours.
Right. Yep. And mayors are very concerned. I mean, it's the state of New Jersey is a sanctuary state. I mean, there are other cities. I mean, right now the DOJ is suing Newark, Jersey City, Hoboken, Patterson, because of their sanctuary city status. Erroneously suggesting that we are standing in the way of their ability to do their job, which is completely false. Right. The courts have already opined that it is not our responsibility to enforce immigration reform or immigration laws. That's the federal government's purview. And if a person has not committed a felony in our state, we don't have to be involved in that. But ultimately, it's more than that. It's just we are helping the immigrants of our community connect themselves to our society, to our cities in an easy and safe way, helping their families, helping our economy, helping the health overall of the cities. We understand the importance of immigrants in our communities, and we want to uphold that. And more importantly, we're defending the Constitution of this state when we do that.
I saw you quoted somewhere as saying giving up on the sanctuary city status of Newark would be like giving up on democracy. How so?
Absolutely. I mean, immigration is a key component to this country. Obviously, we have advertised to the rest of the world that we've discovered the best thing since sliced bread, and that the whole world should be the envy. We should be the envy of the entire world because we have this democracy and our Constitution defends that. And so, why don't you think people around the world are going to come here and try it on and see how it fits, right? To take us up on what we're offering, to be a part of, what they think is an incredible experiment that we're still expanding. America's always been a work in progress, and ultimately, to do what we're doing right now is really just us reneging on a promise that we made to people in this country and the people around the world. We take your tired, your poor, your huddled masses. Just seems like a lie, right? This idea that people are protected in their persons, their paper, and their property. They have the right to practice any religion they want. They have the right to assemble. They have the right of their own ideology and to face their accusers in court and contend their incarceration or arrest, to represent themselves in court. All these things are noble ideas that separate us from countries around the world. To renege on that promise makes us a different place than what we taught kids that we were in the fifth grade.
Now, you sound like you might represent the United States slightly differently than the story that you just told, this sliced bread discovery, best ever
Right,
in the world. How
right.
would you tell the story of where we are? And how would you describe the test that so many of us feel like we're under right now?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, America's always been a work in progress. It's the idea of what America is supposed to be that makes it different, and the struggle that people have went through generation after generation to make it live up to those ideals, right? When Frederick Douglass said, "What does the 4th of July mean to a slave?" That forces America to think about this idea of freedom and libertarianism and what it means. And so our struggles in this country for women's rights, for workers' rights, for LGBTQ rights, to make sure that democracy gets bigger and bigger so it includes everybody. It's a struggle generation after generation after generation. The struggle itself is what makes America great, not hiding it. The idea that my grandfather fled Jim Crow and had to shine shoes in Newark and until he became a postal worker because that was the only job he was offered. And his son is became a renowned poet. His grandson, the mayor of the state's largest city and a number one contender for governor, is a strictly American story. And we should be proud of that story and not try to hide it under a bushel basket. The reality is that this country has never been perfect. And the people in it, the only thing that's been perfect is our ability to make it better generation after generation. That's what it is. And I think what's happening now is people that are trying to halt that progress, are trying to turn us back on our advancements and trying to make us ashamed of the fact that we've struggled in the first place, or that our diversity is the thing that makes our country wrong as opposed to right. That people coming here to be a part of democracy is a weakness as opposed to a strength, right? People are reneging on the very things that some of the founding fathers did. When the people founded this country, they founded it with these great ideas, but slavery was intact. And so that had to end, and it did, right? Jim Crow had to end, and it did. To go backwards is to take the country in a place that we don't want to be.
Well, let's talk about going backwards versus forwards. As I alluded to at the beginning, you, as the mayor of the city of Newark, have advanced some very forward-thinking policies of the sort that we've covered on this program in the past. Now, you, like so many Democratic-run cities, are facing serious onslaught from Republican policy coming down from Washington, cutbacks and health cuts, and you name it. First, I'd love you just to describe Newark for people that don't know it. A fabulous city, but people across the country aren't aware of how much is happening there.
Newark is the state's largest city. It is a working class town, average income about $37,000. Very diverse community. It's always been diverse. When the immigrants here were Irish and Jewish and Italian. Now the immigrant community is Portuguese, Brazilian, African, Caribbean, Latin American. All right, so it's an immigrant community. It's always been an immigrant community, and that's been the strength of this city. It's a port town, an industrial town, and so our struggles here have always been the way they are. We have done tremendous things in this town, changing the skyline, billions of dollars worth of development, forcing affordable housing. In the city, putting 20% affordability in everything that is put up in this town. Change 23,000 lead service lines, rounding costs to the taxpayers, reduce violent crime by 61% in the city, diminish street homelessness to about the 257% street homelessness diminished 2 years ago, in this town. Did guaranteed income, gave people $600 a month or $6,000 or about $6,000 a year or more. We've did that for 2 years for a select group of people in our community. Hundreds of families benefited from this as a part of the larger Mayors for Guaranteed Income around the country, and are trying to push that nationally around the country and here statewide as well when we can. Right, so we've expanded broadband to families that don't have it. We put it in every public park in the city, every recreational center in the city, and we have given it to folks in our community for as low as $20.
So how do you deal with this moment where it feels like so much that you've gained is at risk, and at risk of pretty crass, large scale just deductions in funds coming from the federal government that will leave cities like yours carrying the can?
It is at risk. All of the programs from CDBG dollars, community development, block grant dollars, housing dollars, Medicaid opportunities, SNAP for people to feed their children who are having difficult times. Folks will be homeless without vouchers. So it'll have a devastating impact on Newark and many communities like that. And so that's why we need the states in this country to step up. We need people to push back against what's happening through the judicial system. But we also need to be creative about the things we do in the state. This is not a moment to lay down. It's not a moment to play safe. And the reality is, and when people are afraid, they wind up doing the safe thing instead of the right thing. And so what we need to be doing now is figuring out how we have a Medicaid system that's divorced or separated from what the federal government is doing. I think a public option or Medicare for all is something that we should really honestly be looking at to make the government of this state their own provider. And that's what we should be leaning towards. We should be leaning towards investing more in families, more in communities that need it, making sure childcare is affordable, that healthcare is affordable, that housing is affordable, so that more people can have more dollars in their pockets to spend in our economy, so we won't be crushed by what's happening. We can't subsidize millionaires and billionaires anymore because we're losing those dollars, and we need dollars because we just don't have any room to give money away. We need every ounce of funding that we have, and so we need that back in our budget so we can take care of ourselves. If they decide to cut higher education, decide to cut money from public schools, we need to rebound and be
Yeah.
able to take care of the people in our community.
I got to ask you about the President Trump's voucher plan for schools. He has he would like to see a federal and national school voucher plan, and to some people, school vouchers still seem like a good idea. Vouchers to attend charter schools and privately run schools. This one is a kind of buy your way in kind of program, I think, that could also provide a tax benefit for people that invest stock options and so on. As a former public school
Sure.
teacher, what do you say?
Well, it is proven to be a failed strategy. All over the country, vouchers have helped people who already had their kids in private school in the first place. I mean, overwhelmingly, in states that are using vouchers, the people who benefited from the most are folks that are well off, that are wealthy. Working class families and poor families in this country do not benefit from vouchers. And maybe that's their intention, right? I don't know what their intentions are or their objective is. The irony is that public education in America has always worked, right? If you were in a crowded room and you asked people how many people went to public school, majority of people would raise their hands. So it's not the public schools that's the problem. It's the issues that are related to, the social determinants of health, poverty and race and racism and all of these things that make it difficult in these environments to have equitable kinds of public education. So we should be investing more in public education, not moving away from it. What's happening doesn't make sense. Segregation is unaffordable. It is proven to be unaffordable in this state, right? New Jersey has one of the best educational systems in the country, by the way, but also the sixth most segregated in the country by race and class. And so the inequity you see in New Jersey is not because of public schools, it's because of segregation in our state, and we need to fix it.
So is that why you want to run for governor while you are running for governor and rather than staying in that important job as mayor of the city of Newark?
Yeah, I think being a mayor is incredibly important, but I think the governor, especially at this time, is even more crucial and critical in this moral moment that we're in right now. We need louder voices, bigger resources, a larger stage, a greater opportunity to help more people than we can, to bring communities together, to build a broad-based coalition, and yes, to tackle inequity. And I think in New Jersey, we can prove, if we tackle this inequity, that how our public school system can thrive and flourish and be an example for what the rest of the country should be doing.
You have a lot of competitors there in that primary, and some people will be seeing this program nationally after the election. So I'm sure you want to wish them all well. But how do you distinguish yourself from the others?
I think it's pretty clear. Like when you hear us talk at the debates, I mean, what I'm trying to do is a lot bigger, a lot more imaginative, a lot more creative. People say it's too progressive. I think that making rich pay their fair share is not too progressive. I think that creating statewide rent control and building affordable housing until we get a number we need is not, too progressive. Or talking about a public option that exists in many countries around the world who have full public health care is not too radical or too progressive. I think these are issues that people are waiting for us to talk about. And plus, I'm the mayor of the state's largest city. If anybody has more experience in doing these things, I do. If anybody has more experience in mitigating and solving difficult and complex problems, I do. And we're in a time that not only do we need somebody to solve these problems, but we need courage. Courage and leadership now in this moment is probably more important than anything else. Because Maya Angelou said, courage is the most important value. It gets you the opportunity to practice all the other ones. So without courage, you can be as smart as you want to be. You can have the greatest ideas, but if you have the strength to implement these ideas, then they're useless.
It's also can be courageous, and I think a lot of people have felt the courage that you've shown in this campaign. One of the things that I've heard a lot of people say is, look, Donald Trump got more votes in his third run for president in New Jersey than he did in his first two. The states moved to the right. You can see the statistics. Now, that's all as of the last presidential race.
right?
We don't know where it is right now. What's your sense?
Well, I'll tell you this. The problem with Democrats are not Republicans. The problem with Democrats are Democrats. We're throwing people off the voting rolls in New Jersey, like maybe in Mississippi or Georgia, because they didn't vote in the last couple of elections, as opposed to warning them and telling them you need to vote or we're going to take you off the roll. We throw them off, uh, which is insane because people are not voting in elections because we haven't given them anybody to vote for. And
Now,
that's
as
really what it
governor, wouldn't
is.
you be able to re-enfranchise formerly incarcerated folks too?
Yep, and that's but in New Jersey, to give Phil Murphy credit, he's done that.
No.
So folks that are on parole and probation have the right to vote in New Jersey, and we need to bring them into that space. But I'm talking about people who are not been convicted
Right.
of any crime, who just haven't voted in the last 2 or 3 elections. Just throw them off the rolls. The other issue is that 500,000 Democrats stayed home in the Kamala Harris race. 68%, even in the black community, 68% of the black vote came out in Joe Biden's race. Only 60% of eligible voters in the black community came out for Kamala Harris. When Murphy ran, he won in his last election with less percentage points than Kamala Harris. He won with only 3 percentage points. So about 1 million Democrats stayed home. So the first thing we should be going after are the people who made a decision not to come out to vote
Right.
and really figure out why that's happening and begin to get those people back. And then we need to be talking about the economics of this city, of this state, excuse me, and how social justice and economic justice are the same thing. And begin talking about it in a way that regular people can understand that, regular working people. And I think there are a lot of independents in this state, and maybe a few Republicans even, who may make a decision in this moral moment that we're in, not to go the way of the past and take a bet on the future.
There are people that have said you're the Black Bernie Sanders. Now, I think we can have both you and Bernie Sanders without having to compare the two of you. But
Right,
he has made the point about the increase in independence these days, the number of
right.
folks who are registering independent. It sounds like you have some suspicions of how to get those back into the Democratic Party fold. And I would say I think the primary, the gubernatorial primary there in New Jersey, has also been in some ways a test of the party, its
Always.
commitment to the old guard versus the new, the changing in the ballots that used to benefit the party, county party endorsed candidates and so forth. Is there real change in the works in the party there in New Jersey?
Well, I can see it. I just see all the political infrastructure. Period. I think the change in the party line, the infrastructure there has given people a lot more steam, making people feel like they can run and win. Look, if this race was 4 years ago, it wouldn't be 6 people still in the race 2 weeks out. We would have had 2 people in the race, possibly even one. You know, after the bosses made a deal and sat down and divvied up the spoils, it would have been 2 people in the race, possibly one, and we would have been all galvanizing behind this one individual to run against the Republican Party. But because there's 6 people in the race, it's proof that we're in a different time in New Jersey for sure.
Well, that's exciting good news. I need to ask you what I've heard from some people, which is, was your positioning there at the Delaney Hall facility grandstanding to stand out amongst that pack there running for governor?
I think that's ridiculous. Well, I wish one of them would have done it because it's really humiliating. But at the end of the day, I was there that morning. I've been
Yeah.
there. What people are forgetting to understand is I've been there. I was there every single morning before that arrest at 7 a.m. with UCC code enforcement people, fire inspectors, trying to gain entry with the ICE agents right there. If I wanted to grandstand, and the reporters were right next to me, I could have grandstand at that time and got arrested at that time. But that was not my goal. I went down there to a press conference at 1:30 with the Congress people, and the folks from Homeland Security are the ones that escalated that, not us. And if you can see the video, I walked right into place because they asked me to come in there. And then began to try to, accost me and do all these other kind of things, and escalated that. And it was completely avoidable, right? And totally unnecessary
Mm.
what happened that
I
day.
I heard you after that event saying on national television, I think it was MSNBC, basically calling on other members of the national congressional and senatorial delegations, but certainly the ones from New Jersey, to show up and do what you all were doing. Have they?
Well, I mean, we gotten a lot of calls, a lot of well wishes, a lot of people have said a few things, but I don't think there's any collective action, and that's what's missing. And I tell you what, as I go up and down the state of New Jersey, people are very afraid. And they're saying that we need leadership. And I think there's a lot of people that are exhibiting leadership. I don't think people feel it because there's no collective thing happening. There's no collaboration going on. Nobody's planning anything. It's all spontaneous and individualized. And there's no real strategy on how we push back against these people nationally. And I think that's what's missing.
How can there not be a strategy still? We're May of 2025.
That's a good question. I certainly don't feel one and haven't heard about one.
No, I think you're totally right. I mean, as we draw to a close, I want to go back into your history. Part of what gives you the courage, I think, that you do is your legacy and your rootedness in a tradition that includes members of your family. At a time when this administration seems so determined to erase exactly that history. I'm talking Black history, I'm talking movement history, I'm talking liberation history, and not just history, but analysis, storytelling, inspiration. Where do you draw your strength from? And what's your message to folks perhaps out there who are feeling a little rootless?
Well, I tell people, like, I'm afraid too, but I pray that fear doesn't turn me into a coward. And the reality is, we can't be the only generation that does not sacrifice our position, our proximity to influence, our privilege, our power for the generations that come after us. Many people sat in jails, lost their lives in order for us to enjoy the kind of democracy we have today that is being taken away from us little by little by little. We don't have a right to sit on the sideline and watch these things happen and enjoy the spoils that were given to us by other people who did not have an opportunity to have the things we have. I know that people think they got their space because of their resume, but there was a time when people wouldn't even read your resume. And so it's important for us to keep that in mind, right? Day in and day out, and finally, my mother would say to me that your father was a thinker, a philosopher, a writer, a poet. When he went to the supermarket, nobody asked him for a job. And she's saying to me that you have to do things. You got to get it done. Like, nobody wants to debate with you about your politics in the bread line, right? You have to make sure they can get bread. And that's really what my responsibility is to make sure we're doing the things that we say we're going to do. And I think that's the Democrats' problem. We've went away from making sure that people can get access to the bread in the bread line and started debating people in debates that other people controlled, around things that didn't really relate to regular working families in this state. We have to make the big issues relate to the small issues, and the small issues relate to the big issues. We can't run ahead of people. We have to run with them.
And do you still write poetry? What's the
I,
role?
I
What's the
absolutely
role
do.
of poetry and the arts in all of this? As
Absolutely
somebody
do.
who's recorded hip hop albums and
Yeah, yeah.
etc.
I don't want to lose my poetry license, so I still write poetry. I still do that. I go to the studio from time to time and write with music, but I still write poetry. I was getting ready to do NJ Pack this Sunday for the celebration
Performing Arts Center.
for New Jersey Performing Arts Center for Sonia Sanchez, in fact. But the show had to be canceled because I don't believe she's feeling under the weather. But I was ready to go, and I've performed at New Jersey Performing Arts Center numerous times as the mayor and at the Dodge Poetry Festival as the mayor. So I'm still at it.
It seemed to me that night when I saw you, and I give thanks for being invited to be able to be there at the Schomburg that evening, that it was so important
Yeah,
for so many to be, rather than running away from that history, digging back into that cultural history of resistance.
right,
Yeah,
right.
it was unique, but we need it now too.
More than ever, more than ever. Right. And you can't forget it. And, Sonia Sanchez is like a part of my family. She was like a second mom. She's always around and she's always struggled for us as humanity. And it was my responsibility, no matter what I was doing in the city, to get over there, to represent my family and show our gratitude to her as a person and to the work that she's done for many people around this country.
Was there a moment there where they were arresting you at that federal facility or that private facility where you thought, "Oh my gosh, this is happening to Baraka again"? Having that?
Well, I was thinking about all kind of stuff. Who's gonna pick my kids up from school, right? Did I leave my front door open? All kind of stuff you're thinking about running through your head. But the reality is, I was thinking about where they're gonna take me. Like, what's going to happen here? Like, am I going to go to county jail? Are they going to take me to some detention facility? Like, I didn't know what was going on. That kind of anxiety that you have breeds fear, right? And so the reality is you're sitting there saying these people are really committed to their foolishness. And it was a second that I was outside the gate and I thought they were bluffing. I said, this is ridiculous. These people are not going to come out here and arrest me with all these people with these cameras. I'm the mayor of the city, for God's sakes. And they did it anyway. So
Yeah. I mean, it does seem we're hearing it also from those who have been visible and audible defenders of sanctuary, that the people who made themselves very visible are actually being targeted. Being visible is not a protection under this
that's right.
administration.
That's right. That's right.
For those who are going to be seeing this episode or hearing it after June 10th, the primary, the gubernatorial primary, what do you say to them? If you won, how will your campaign be different? And if you didn't win, I guess my question would be, would you run again?
Well, I mean, when we win, our campaign is going to be clearly different than everybody else's. I'm 100% sure of that. The things that we're asking for, that we're fighting for, that we're demanding, our design to bring broad-based coalitions together to explain the commonalities of our struggle, our policies directly, it's squarely pointed at working families at the center of what we're doing here, and building out from there, right? Building a universal design to our economy where anybody can hitch their wagon to the economy, no matter what station of life that they're in, and be promised an opportunity to get to the middle class, an opportunity to own a home, an opportunity to open up a business, an opportunity to improve their station in life. It's completely different, to dismantle segregation and inequity in this state that I think causes our economy to be stagnant, causes it to go backward. Protecting immigrants and protecting the LGBTQ community, and make sure our democracy is big enough and bold enough to include more people. And so I'm clearly cognizant of our campaign and the things that we're asking for and how different it is. And I think the power in our demands is, as Paul Robeson would say, is what we're asking for is right. And clearly, and by any stretch that we fall short of what's going on, yeah, we don't walk away. We're gonna stay at it and stay focused and make sure we push this state into a place that it needs to be. We need to be in it. We need an example out here. I think California used to be an example, and I think that people are backing away from the things that they were pushing forward for a while. But we need an example here in this country of democracy that's working for working families across this country.
Well, you create that model. We'll be there to report on it, and excited to do so. And that brings me to our closing question. I ask all of our guests, what do they think is the story that the future will tell of this moment? Looking forward, I don't know, 50 years, 100 years. What's the story the future will tell of us today?
It's a dangerous moment, right? It's going to tell the same story that it told during Jim Crow, during the Civil War, during the fight for women's rights, the fight for around Roe v. Wade, or whether the LGBTQ rights or the Haymarket massacre. It's going to tell a story. The question is which side of the story you're going to be on, right? That's really the question. And so this is a turning point. I mean, what happens now affects generations to come. Just like dismantling Jim Crow affected generations to come. This is going to affect generations. An 8-hour day affected generations to come. This is going to do that. And so the question you should ask yourself when they're telling this story, where are you going to be positioned?
Thank you for that, Mayor Ras Baraka. It's been great having you on the program.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to the full conversation with Newark, New Jersey Mayor and gubernatorial candidate Ras Baraka. These audio exclusives are made possible thanks to our members' supporters. Please join our members now by making a one-time donation or make it monthly. Go to patreon.com/Laura Flanders and Friends. That's also where you'll find more information on this conversation in the episode notes. That's patreon.com/Laura Flanders and Friends. And thanks again to all our member supporters.